Hello, Oracles. How is it going today? Let me see. Mike, yes, Tesla held up pretty well today. We're going to go over a bunch of that. We had some questions this morning. We were up very green early, and we're sure if it was going to get a fake out. And sure enough, we got quite a bit of sell off. Actually, let's just jump right into the charts and we'll take a look at this. Oh, let me share. I got to share it with you guys. There we go. All right. So yeah, the question we had this morning is the green that we were seeing early on going to be a fake out? And sure enough, Jerome Powell came out and spoke. Honestly, I didn't get a chance to see it. I haven't seen anything about it. I really don't know what he spoke about. If you guys know, definitely let me know in the comments. Work was extremely busy today, so I haven't had a chance to look. But, I just was there enough to follow the charts, and here it is. We pushed up to that 289 level. We've been discussing these levels, and I said before, we are going to hit these levels, and on the way down, we hit them all. We hit that 313 level, we bounced off, we came down to that 300 level, fell below that, hit 289, fell below that, hit 275. I thought it was 278, ended up being 275. And on the way back up, we are going to see this same resistance now. Sure enough, we came up and we bounced off of that 289 level, and then we fell back down. And we fell down significantly, but we still outperformed the market. We were up 2.5%. NASDAQ was up, what, 0.25%? 0.25%, and everything else is down. The Dow is actually in a bear market now. So bear market, for those of you guys who don't know, is down 20% from recent highs. So the recent highs that the Dow had were all the way back in January, but those were the recent highs. Now, other things we pay attention to also. So this here is the 5-minute chart. So this is one that I look at for just the day itself. So we came down, we scooped up, and then here we can see a little red candlestick at the end of the day with a lot of volume coming in. So usually when you see a lot of volume at the end of the day, that's kind of an indicator for the next day. We'll see how that plays out. But that's where we are for the 5-minute chart. 30-minute, I don't pay a lot of attention to. But then we go to the day chart. This is the big one that I usually pay attention to. This is the one I wanted to show you guys. There's a couple of patterns I want to show you between the day chart and the week chart. So on the day chart, these are the things that I pay attention to. There's a lot of different indicators you can look at. There's the MACD, which is actually one that I want to bring up. Eventually I'll get this on the chart so I can show you guys. MACD is big. A big one I look at is the RSI. So the RSI is the relative strength index. So the relative strength index is anything below 30 usually means it is oversold. And at that point, typically you see some buying pressure coming in, driving the stock back up. Over 70 usually means that it's overbought. And at that point here, you are normally going to see some selling pressure coming in, bringing it down. Doesn't mean that it has to happen right away. Last year, when we got the Hertz deal going on in the Q3 numbers, we pushed up over 90. So we were there for about 2 weeks before we ended up pulling down. Sometimes the sell-offs or the buying pressure come from the most random things. Last time, we thought for sure we were never going to come down under 1,000. We were hitting 1,220, 1,230, 1,240, and then Elon started to sell. And so that brought the RSI down. Random stuff. It happens. So looking at the day chart, we're at 45. So, we're on the lower end of the middle range, but, still in the middle. The next thing to look at is volume. So volume here. So this little red volume stick is, we see up here this number. I'll get back over to it, but this number here shows us where we're at. So for the day, we were at 61 million shares trading hands. Now, if you go back all the way to the July and August timeframe before the split, we're looking at 82, 80, 88, 142. Like these were big numbers. So 721, that was, I believe that was the Q3 or Q2 earnings call. So, we're still relatively low volume compared to where we were in August. So we're just waiting. And so kind of right now, it kind of feels like the market is just hesitating, not really sure what's going to be going on with the economy. And so we're looking at this pattern coming in. So we had this nice downward trend, a V shape up, and then back down. So what I wanted to show you guys is it kind of seems like, we're going up, coming down, and it almost like feels like we need to retrace our steps to get back down to here, which is where that gap is, that gap at 247 that we have been discussing. Now, again, it doesn't have to do this. We don't need to fill this gap. But, looking at this gap, it's here in the gray bar. That gap is what needs to get filled. And if we retrace our steps the way we did, previously on our way up there, then we would fill that gap. And then at that point, we can level off and go back up. So like looking at the timing of it, perhaps looking at 10/4 here, that is going to be, what is that, beginning of next week. So we're starting to look at these dates here. If we retrace the same way we went up, there's a chance that we bounce down, maybe due to some delivery and production numbers not coming in where we thought we were going to be at the beginning of the month. We priced in at the beginning of this month. Now, let me see, where is the beginning of the month? So beginning of the month, we started our nice run. We were getting a lot of news. Maybe Shanghai is going to see 100,000 deliveries. Maybe we're going to get some, record-breaking deliveries, maybe hitting 400,000 company-wide. So we ran up. Now we have come back down to that level. So basically, if we can assume that all of this was due to the fact that we thought we were going to smash delivery numbers, and now we're kind of guessing we're not, we have balanced back off. So now what brings us back down? Again, who knows? So maybe we're going to see, an AI Day 2 thing coming out. And again, when it comes to AI Day 2, we could be getting a lot of information that we've seen in the past, stuff that you and I think is going to be really awesome and great long-term visions. But for Wall Street wants to know, what are you doing right now? What are we going to see in the next 6 months? If we don't see anything coming out for it, maybe we see more selling pressure. So that's just what I'm seeing. So then we go over to the week chart. And this is where, a little concern came in for a lot of people, thinking that we are going to be pulling down even further from here. So looking at, starting November of last year when Elon started selling, we've basically been on a large, massive dead cat bounce. And, maybe this is another bounce. This here doesn't bounce the same way as all these did. So I don't truly know if it's going to bounce down that way, but that's just the way the week chart seems to be looking. So we'll see if that plays out. I truly don't know. But again, we are still, pretty low volume coming in. And even on the week chart, RSI is right in the middle at 50. So those things I wanted to share with you guys on here for the charts. Let me see what else you guys have for comments. It's good. And then looks like, let me go over the tweets because Sawyer Merritt tweeted out something earlier today that I had seen. Let me see. So Tesla asks employees to help with very high volume of deliveries for end of Q3. So over the past year, Tesla's Elon Musk expressed his desire to move away from the company's model that results in very large delivery pushes at the end of the quarter, which we talked about that. End of last year, this is exactly what it was. And now we're back to it. So not to say it's a concern for me, but if we were looking at not having to do these strong pushes at the end of the quarter to try and meet numbers, why are we back here again? I don't know. So analysts, let me see, the email reads, we will be delivering a very high volume of vehicles to eagerly awaiting customers during the final days of Q3 to help ensure we can delight as many customers as possible. The delivery team is requesting additional support with key delivery execution tasks. So again, we're going to find out for sure this weekend. This weekend, we're going to get our numbers that come in. So I don't truly know how that is going to pan out. So I will be doing, I don't know if I'm going to end up doing a live stream. Depends on when the numbers come out. I think last time they came out around like 10:30 in the morning. And I usually get my kid on Sundays. So I'll see how it goes. I'll try to get something out for you guys before then. If not, then it'll just happen afterwards. But usually that time in the morning, you guys can track it yourself. And I'll show you where to find all that information in a minute, in case you don't know, to get all those numbers yourself. So analysts are predicting estimates between 350 and 370, which is what we have been discussing. So I'm in at 369,000 for my delivery estimates. And I gotta say, I don't know what's going to happen because we've carried over 10,000 vehicles in inventory from July to August. Then August production and delivery numbers were basically the same coming out of Shanghai. So we have another 10,000 carrying over into September. So I don't know if we're going to be carrying more over. Sounds like Shanghai numbers aren't going to be as strong as they were. And if we were expecting 100,000 and we're only going to be getting 90,000, maybe we carry 20,000 vehicles over. Something else I had seen today. Let me see if I can find it. Looked like Shanghai is Fremont is packed. Thank you, Sawyer. Very high volumes. That was what we were just talking about. Gary, we'll go over that in a minute too. There was another one about Shanghai right now is is expecting to only run capacity at 93%. They're not even going full all out 100% capacity for production in Shanghai. So, that's fine, because if we're only going to do 93% and then we're going to push higher next year, I'm okay with that. But it seems like, we're not pushing full capacity. So maybe they're doing that intentionally, because next year we are expecting the EV tax credit to be coming through here in the US. Sounds like the EV tax credit that they had over in Shanghai is actually going to get extended. It was supposed to expire at the end of this year. Looks like that is getting extended through 2023. So perhaps that is one of the reasons too why Tesla is deciding to only go 93%, because they know that they have next year to push even harder. So now Gary Black here was discussing how, let me see. So luxury brands in the US, these are luxury vehicle registrations for July of 2022. So, January through July, Tesla is up 55%. And we've got everyone else in the negatives for an average of negative 20%. So when people say that, and this is all vehicles, this isn't just EVs, this is all vehicles. So when we've got Tesla, and Tesla Q coming out and Bears coming out saying that competition is coming, we know that Shanghai is, a hot market, and we're still growing over there. So even if we're losing, some market share, still a hot market, we're still going to grow. That's not a question. But here in the US, we're just destroying everyone. It's not even close. Let me see. Let me see here. Sorry to get this over here. There we go. Yes, Logan. How did the Fed speech go? So we are green, so we definitely outperformed the market. I don't know what the Fed said actually. So if you guys know, let me know. I didn't have a chance to check in on that. I asked my dad. He was with my nephew, his grandson. So whatever he spoke about, obviously ended up becoming what we thought it was going to be, was that fake out for the rest of the market. I mean, we were up about 4.5% early and still ended up 2.5% up. So I'm not going to complain about that, but definitely we weren't as high as we were to start the day. And I almost wonder if the reason we outperformed so much is because of this news about very high volume of deliveries coming out. So that could have been it. But again, not to be negative on it whatsoever, but I think that there's a little bit of a concern. I think the 400,000 that I thought we were going to get, I don't think we're going to get there. I would love it, but I don't think we're going to get there. Let me see. What do we have? Denise, Giga Berlin has been closed this week due to a fire. Oh, did they close? I didn't see that they closed. I knew that they had the fire at their recycling plant there. So I didn't know that they actually closed. I just saw, I wonder if there's any news over on the Twitter about it. Tesla Giga Berlin. Latest. Fire that broke out plant has been extinguished. No injuries reported. Local fire department. That was a day ago. So that just broke out a day ago, but let me see what we have for news on it. Let me see, plant and local time on. Okay, so it was Monday. Yeah, that was yesterday. So that was yesterday. Firefighters came. Does fire department cause of fire not determined? Doesn't say anything about the plant being closed, and it happened yesterday. So I don't know if it was just closed yesterday, but doesn't say anything in here. I don't know if there's any further reports about it. Let me get back to. Let me see. I love how it does this. No, get back. There we go. Twitter. Yeah, I don't know. It doesn't say anything about it being closed. So then that begs the question. I don't know if it needs to reopen because I don't know if it's closed. So let me see. Sub-Zero, yes. You're absolutely right. Tesla is in competition with itself to keep breaking records. You're absolutely right. I mean, the only competition Tesla currently has is itself. Now, one thing that I do want to take into account is not being so egotistical that, Tesla's just the only one out there. There is competition. There are other people coming, but as we've spoken about before, nobody's even close to really passing Tesla. And any competition that's out there, even Elon has said himself, it's good. Trying to get the EV revolution going as fast as possible is what they want. And honestly, Elon is actually disappointed about the fact that Legacy Auto is moving as slow as they are. So he wants them to move faster. So this isn't even like, a question of, are we trying to get Tesla to, just stay that far ahead? It's, come on, everybody, let's everybody get moving here. That's what we're looking for. Let me see. Weird. Yeah. Well, and it's funny because every time that, gosh, this happened back in the spring, and I think it happened last year also. It's like every single time there's a lot of FUD in the news and Tesla is dropping like a rock, it's a dumpster fire, literal dumpster fire. And this time it's a recycling plant, so still not good. It's never good to have a fire, but like fires happen, like, and nobody was hurt. It got put out. Let me see. I see. Tim, I've learned it was some of the crazy radical Germans who demanded the game. I was actually wondering that. Do you have any sources behind that? I haven't seen anything. I was definitely questioning it though. A lot of times when I see these things coming out, I wonder if it was an intentional thing done by somebody else, because that always makes me wonder. And thank you, sir, for becoming a member. I appreciate that. And for you guys as members, what I'm going to do for you as well is, like I went over the charts a little bit briefly right now. I'm going to try like every other week. My time is very limited at the moment. Once I can do this full time, I'll have tons of more time for you guys. But for the moment, I'm going to try at least every other week to get a video out there for you guys. I'll do a live stream just for you so we can have a little smaller group session and really break down how I find all the lines that I find, how I find all the levels that I find, how I determine where I'm going to put all of my lines. And I'll share all that with you guys over in the member live streams. Let me see. EVs are not a race against EVs. They are just taking market share from ICE. Spot on, Mike. That's exactly what it is. And anytime, if you guys are ever dealing with bears or Tesla Q who are saying that Tesla is losing EV market share, as far as I'm concerned, there is no EV market share because of the fact that EVs are taking over ICE vehicles. EVs in the future will be the automotive market. The EV market will be the automotive market. So the number I look at, the two numbers I look at, it's very similar to Gary Black. The numbers I look at are what is the EV adoption rate and what is the overall automotive market, because that is telling me how much the EV adoption rate is taking over the entire automotive market. All companies, including Legacy Auto, all companies who are in EVs are going to grow their EV share over the course of time, just because their business is going to grow as it takes over the automotive market. It's as simple as that. And that's why, when you're looking at rough numbers, let's say, so I think the last couple of years, automotive market was like 70 million vehicles sold annually. So when we're getting to like 2030, we're probably going to be looking at maybe 100 million vehicles sold. And if Tesla's going to have 15 to 20% of that, that's 15 to 20 million vehicles sold in a year. What's Tesla's goal? 20 million vehicles. I mean, it's really just straight numbers looking at it like that. So as long as Tesla can continue to grow its EV, production and deliveries along with everything and grow with the EV adoption, we're going to be perfectly fine. And obviously they're proving it because they're so far ahead of everyone else. Nobody's even putting in the efforts that even Elon wants them to put in. Thomas, would be great to break $400 by the end of the year. Good vibes. Yeah, I mean, it would be great to break it. I think right now, as we have seen, I've discussed it before too, is looking at the market right now and Tesla stock, usually when the market is kind of quiet, Tesla is allowed to run a little bit. So we can see Tesla running up like we did before, up to 313. And then it's sort of, as soon as macro stuff comes in, it just squashes everything and it brings Tesla down with it. And that's where we're at right now. So we got the FOMC meeting, we got the CPI data. So that just kind of squashed everything. So as soon as we see the macro environment kind of cool off a little bit, Tesla will be able to run again. But then as soon as the macro environment gets heavy again, it'll bring Tesla down again. It's just a pattern we've been seeing all year long. Let me see. I'll bring the charts back up. There we go. Let's see. Oh, Jim, here we go. We got some info from Jim. Giga Berlin is still open, and how we know that is because activists are calling for production to stop, and the reason they are calling for production to stop is because Berlin is still in production. I mean, can't be the logic there, Jim. Thank you. Let's see. How many deliveries will Q3 have? Personally, I think 369,000 is where I'm at. We'll see if we'll see this weekend what we come in line with, but that's where I'm at. I will do a full breakdown later this week. I'm not sure what day I'm going to do it, but I'll do a full breakdown for you guys on my numbers. And sometimes I feel silly doing numbers, like when we've got guys like Troy Tesla and Tesla Karav when he actually has an opportunity to get into the numbers. Like when we've got guys that are that accurate, I kind of feel silly doing my own. But for me, because I do my own valuation model, I feel like I need to do my own production and delivery numbers because that is what really creates my valuation model. So in order for me to get the numbers done properly for myself, and this is what I call my own due diligence, like I can balance mine off of Troy Tesla, and I do utilize a lot of the information that he provides to make sure that I'm not off in some facet, but I still do my own due diligence and research in other places as well to come up with my numbers. Let's see, how much can Tesla break before Q3 results? I don't know. And I'm actually kind of curious because it's still going to be a record either way. So we're going to have a record quarter. And I think from here on out, we're just going to see record number after record number. We may see like one quarter, like Q4 is probably going to be another similar like this. We're going to see a strong push at the end of Q4. So Q1 of next year, maybe not. But again, I don't know how Tesla is going to play it out at the end of the year. I'm one who has a delivery that's coming at the end of the year. My delivery time frame is between November 3rd and December 8th. I want to push mine off until the beginning of the year. I personally could use that $7,500. So I'm pushing mine off until next year. I don't know how many more people are going to do that. So I don't know if Tesla's going to do any incentives, just like they're doing over in Shanghai, to try and entice people to get their vehicles sooner rather than later. Maybe they're going to do something where they're going to throw in, autopilot or something. I don't know. We're going to have to see how that plays out in the end of the quarter, because if that ends up playing out that way, then we may actually see a stronger Q1 next year than a Q4 of this year, which typically doesn't happen. When do you think GM or Ford can make a profitable EV, and can they do it before they go bankrupt? So based upon what Ford has told us, sounds like the F-150 Lightning, I believe, is profitable for them. I don't know how true that is. Ford is not going to be breaking out their EV numbers specifically until we get into 2024. I think it's Ford Blue is what they're calling it. I could be wrong, but I think it's Ford Blue. And so we'll know for sure then. But Jim Farley has been pretty upfront and open with most everybody on that, saying that they're not profitable in some areas, and how profitable the F-150 Lightning is, I really don't know. So I cannot fathom them being anywhere near Tesla's margins of 25, 30, 35%. So there's no way they're going to be near that. So when the Cybertruck comes out, I would imagine Cybertruck is going to be pushing 35% margins, depending on what they do for pricing, which hopefully we find out at the end of the year as well. So, when we get all those numbers in, there's no way that's going to happen. So when it comes to GM, God, like in order to get to profitability like Tesla's at, you've got to be producing at scale. Nobody's in legacy auto is even pushing to produce at scale. Ford is, they're moving right along. They're not doing terribly, but they're not there yet. So how can they possibly get to margins like Tesla? And thank God for the EV tax credit. I think that's the only reason they're going to be profitable next year for any reason whatsoever, is strictly because of the EV tax credit. Because in their mind, they can basically be, as long as they're selling vehicles for a loss of less than $7,500, they're technically going to be profitable because the government's going to be paying them to be profitable. It's kind of sad and disgusting, but that's just where we're at. Let's see. We've got a prediction here. King 901 Tesla is going to be above $300 by Thursday. It's possible. I mean, but again, going back to the charts here, and again, these charts don't have to be, nobody knows what the future is going to bring for these charts. I'm just going by what I'm seeing here and us mirroring this on the other end, with this gray bar being that gap that needs to get filled. I'm predicting that we come down to here, but I could be totally wrong. Who knows? That's just kind of where I'm seeing us coming down to before we end up coming back up. And timing wise, if we get there, let me see. Like looking at these dates here, like 9:30. Is this even right? Yeah, 9:30. 10:3, 10:4 going into next week. This maybe we hit it next week and then we end up bouncing back up. And then don't forget, we've got CPI data coming out in October. I think that's October 13th. I'd have to double check that. It's either the 10th and 11th or the 13th that it's coming out. And so when we get those numbers coming in, that's another macro blanket that could pull us down. So again, these are just, when I look at the future, nobody knows what they are. I just kind of look at all the different pieces of information, like what could drive us up, what could drive us down, what is going to be, more relevant at the time to move us in that direction. And then you still never know, because market manipulators can come in and do whatever the heck they want. Because if a lot of people are thinking, ooh, we think that the stock market's going to move this way based on the FOMC meeting, we go green and then we crash the day afterwards. They like to play us like that. And that's another thing that I like to take into account, is the fact that market manipulators will do as they please to take money from all of us. The dealers will absorb the tax rebates, unfortunately. Yeah, that's actually a very valid point. And I know Ford right now has, at the end of the year, they are going to be doing, or actually at the end of October, they've told their dealers that they have till the end of October to make the decision if they're going to be an EV dealer or not. And I don't know if they can choose afterwards to become an EV dealer. I would imagine Ford would say, sure, you can be. I don't know how it's going to play out. I like them being aggressive and making their dealerships do that. And I actually, if any of you guys know any Ford dealerships, I know a GM one. They're a Chevy dealership, but he's no longer the owner, so I can't chat with him and discuss how that's working. I'm sure he would still know how it's working on the GM side of things. But if anybody knows any Ford dealers, to ask them how it's working on their end and their feelings on it, that would be great. Oh, here we go. Yes. Sorry, Mike. Yes, needs to get filled. So when we're looking at the algorithms here, and I use needs to get filled because that's just a term that is thrown around. So historically, gaps get filled 9 out of 10 times. So when we see a gap like this, and I'll show you guys where I find these gaps. So I go to, for me, it's easy to do just on Yahoo Finance. So I go to Yahoo Finance and I just look up Tesla historical pricing. So when you look at, like today, for instance, we created a gap. So you look at the close from yesterday and we closed at 276.01. Then you look at the open today, it's 283.84. So that there means that there's a gap between 276 and 283. You need to come down and fill that. We came down to 277.51. That did not fill the gap. So we now currently have that gap at 276. So that gap there, when you're looking at those historically, they fill 9 out of 10 times. So a lot of times they fill due to, the algorithms, and Clueless actually, and I don't know if he's on here. He had a great explanation as to why it does it by the market makers, and, having these different gaps that need to get filled, and saying, hey, these prices down here have sales orders that need to go through and they haven't been filled yet. So that's how it plays out. And because a majority of the stock trading that goes on these days is done by computer algorithms, those algorithms are just doing all that market maker stuff for them. So that's why those gaps, tend to get filled. So, and again, it's 9 out of 10 times. Every single gap we have created this year for Tesla has been filled. And, I have no doubt this 276 will get filled. So the other two that we have do stem back a little further. Let me see. It's 247 and 258. Let me see if I could find the dates on them. I think, here we go. So 247 goes back to July 20th. So that's 247.50. And then 258 goes to July 26th. So these two dates here, those are the gaps that need to get filled down below us. Now, again, we can bounce. Maybe we fill at 276, 265 for us. And I'll go back over to the charts quickly. So looking at the 265 level here, so this here has been a relatively strong, like we bounced off of it here as a support. Here it acted as a resistance level. So these levels here are ones that I look at. And then when you go back in time, you can see there were other times that it was acting as a support and a resistance. So looking at those support and resistance levels tell me that, when we hit this level here, we could bounce off. Maybe we bounce off and just never come back to fill the gap. But, just the way we've been trading this year, I'm just keeping it in the back of my mind. That's the reason I do it. Not to say that, hey, I think we're going to come down there. But, I have to keep it in the back of my mind as something, because we saw massive gaps that were done last October, and then Elon sold and we came down and filled them all. Let's see. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Those tax credits were created for Ford and GM to survive. Because there's no way. And now Ford didn't have to get a bailout during the 2008 and 2009 recession. GM did and hasn't paid back their debt on that, and probably never will. But they got the bailout. And if the government was going to do another bailout this time around, that would be very ugly. So there's no way they could get away with it. So I think this was their way of doing it. Isn't the $7,500 supposed to help the consumer and demand, not the inline pockets of auto manufacturers directly? That is true. Yes, it is. So the consumers will be the ones who get that $7,500, but that's where it comes down to the pricing power. So when it comes to legacy auto, because they're not profitable, they may bump their prices up a little bit just so that they can actually make some profits. Tesla, on the other hand, may actually come down with their prices and give it to the consumer, because Tesla's prices, and Elon said himself, they're embarrassingly high. So, it may go both ways. And I think at that point, I'm going to pay attention. When we get to that point at the end of the year, beginning of next year, when the EV tax credit starts to take effect, which direction are the prices moving for the sales for these companies? Because if legacy auto is going up and Tesla is coming down, you'll definitely be able to tell who cares about the consumer and who cares about themselves. Hello, Gavin. Denise, thank you for becoming a member. I appreciate that. Let me see. There's still a chance of forming the inverted head and shoulders. Yes, there is. So that's another thing I was looking at here. So an inverted head and shoulders, and I'll break it down for you guys another time, is like head and shoulders. And then what ends up happening is it breaks down. So, we'll see how the inverted head and shoulders actually comes down to here, and then it bounces up as a breakout. It's the regular head and shoulders that ends up causing a breakdown. So yes, the inverted coming up here. So this would be like the head, these are the shoulders. So it could definitely come down and go back up. Totally possible. So I was eyeballing that as well, Thomas. So thank you for pointing that out. Mike K, thank you for becoming a member. I appreciate that. Let me see here. Same late name to listen to your live feed. Love your channel. Oh, thanks, Ian. I appreciate that. I was disappointed Tesla went up today. Yeah. I'm actually personally, just to be a little selfish, I do want to see the gaps filled. To be completely transparent, I don't short stocks. I don't have enough money to even play options. But I do have a buy in my IRA at 265, and I have 2 more shares ready to get bought at 250. And the reason I do them at 250 versus 247 is strictly because of the fact that sometimes we get like partial gap fills and then come back up and maybe never come back to fill it again. Sometimes market manipulators understand, they know where the gaps are. So they do it intentionally, knowing where people's buys are in. So I do it a little bit higher than those levels anyway. Some people do like a 251 or a 253. In the long run, those couple of dollars truly aren't going to make a difference. For me, and the reason I do it, because I don't have a lot of shares and I don't have a lot of money coming in. So the more shares I can buy now for lower means the more money I'm going to make in the future. That's the reason I do it. That's the reason I follow the charts the way I do. Otherwise, long term, none of these prices truly matter. I'm just trying to get more for my money right now. Let me see. In your opinion, do you think Tesla will hit at least 320 within the next coming month? I do. I do think unless we end up getting a further crash down, and as I was showing here on the weekly chart, just seeing as we've been kind of long-term bouncing down. So unless we bounce down significantly further, and some people have been talking about getting into low 200s, you look at the low 200s here, we've got a pretty good support level right around that 207 level. And that 207 level is that same 620 level that we had as a bottom previously when we hit back in June. So if we do hit that level, that's low, but if we hit that could be our double bottom, and then we come back up again. Truly don't know if it's going to happen, but I think we're going to end up hitting 320 based upon Q3 numbers. So unless some reason Q3 numbers don't come in well, I think we're going to hit these levels here, maybe fill the gap, and then come back up and go higher from there. And one of the patterns that we had seen earlier in the year is we kept on making higher gaps. So we had gaps. I think it was 620 was a gap, and then it was like 648. I can't remember all the numbers, but they on our way up. So that's what I'm paying attention to here. If we continue that pattern, if we fill this and then we make higher gaps and higher gaps, then I think we're going to be in the clear going forward. And once we cross 300, we may not come back again. But if we don't fill these gaps now, I've just got to still keep that in the back of my head that we've got the gaps open. Let me see. Michael, isn't debt-free companies more safe since Powell raising rates like he is doing? Yeah. So that's a great point. Companies who are debt-free, like Tesla's basically debt-free, they're doing great when it comes to raising rates, because when rates go up, any companies that have to take on debt are literally going to have to be paying a ton more debt in the future. Because think about it, just anything you guys do. Think about you're using a credit card, you're buying something. If you don't pay it off entirely, you're paying 18, 20, 23% in interest. If you're, companies over the last 2 years basically got to borrow at almost zero interest. So that was almost free money for them. Going forward, any company that has to take on more debt is going to be even more in debt because of the interest rate they have to face and they have to pay off. So Tesla not needing to do it, look at the free cash flow. That's a big number to look at for all these companies going forward. Where do these companies have free cash flow? How much do they have coming in to pay off all of their debt? Let's see. What is your high and low resistance levels with Tesla? Just my opinion. So my high and low resistance levels right now, high is 313 without question. We've seen it. Look at this, 314 here. That's actually probably closer to 313.90 is where I have it marked. That right there, look at how solid that is. Bang, 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 right across the way. That is the resistance we cannot seem to break through. That was 940 to 945 previously. And low right now, we've got that support at 265. That seems to be the strong level right now, whether we're going to break below it or not. But that, to me, is the current channel. So if we fill these gaps, it's going to be one of those things where you kind of break down for a brief period and then come back up. But yeah, that is the channel that I see us trading in at the moment. Logan, Ford has plummeted to 1189. Actually, I haven't been following Ford stock, but that is not a surprise. Sorry, not a surprise. Do I think Tesla will hit 295 soon? It depends on what you mean by soon. But yes, I do think we will hit that sometime in October. Let me see. Can you look at PED since this is oil debt free, which is CEO buying up Fidelity, about $1.40 last week. I will get into that. I'll tell you what, I will dive into that next time, Michael, just because it'll be easier for me to do that. And I do need to get off shortly. But I will definitely take a look at that and I'll bring that up because, I just don't have time to dive into it right now. Because normally what I do is it's easier for me to do all the lines on it. So I'll do all the lines on it and I'll share that with you later for sure. Let me see here. Denise, I want to see Tesla pull back too. Yeah, definitely want to buy some more. What do you think the end? What do I think this ends the week at? See, this is where I'm really torn. I don't know if we are going to be getting a run up into AI day with a rumor type situation, and timing of it is crazy because it's we're going to get AI day, which I believe it actually, the big stuff starts at 8 p.m. Eastern time. So it's going to be when the markets are closed. So markets are going to be closed. And then we're going to get Q3 delivery numbers on Sunday. So, realistically looking at it, we could potentially run up into the end of the week or not. This is a really hard one to call this week. I truly don't know. I think it all is going to come down to what the market manipulators want to do. Michael, spread does have plenty of cash, 24 million cash. So a lot of times, and I'll discuss just quickly with other companies that are out there. If you guys are looking at other companies, I know there's obviously other companies out there than Tesla, but for any company in general, there's what some people call zombie companies. And a zombie company is a company that can't even bring in enough money to pay off the interest that they have for any of the debt that they've got. So that is why it is dangerous to own a zombie company, especially going into recessionary times. A lot of times we see recessionary times kind of clean out these companies. So it's a good thing to have a recession to clean out deadweight companies, because a lot of times investors are dumping money into a company that really shouldn't be around anymore, or maybe it's a startup that never got started up, and never really got going to where it needs to get going. So when it comes to companies that you're looking at, if you're looking at investing in any other companies, definitely take a look at, what is their free cash flow? What is their debt? If they don't have a lot of debt, how are they going to handle a recessionary time coming in? Are they going to have consumers during this time when we go into recessionary periods where there's going to be less money out there to spend? So, those are just some of the few basic things to look at when you're looking at these companies. So, if they've got plenty of cash, 24 million of cash on hand, and they don't have any loans that are outstanding, then they should fare fairly well. Being a smaller company, maybe they'll get bought out by somebody if they have a great product to offer. That's another option too, because a lot of times during recessionary times, the valuation of companies is significantly lower. We've seen it happen a lot over the last couple of years. But when valuations of companies come down significantly and other companies who are doing very well have the money and cash flow, they tend to scoop up a lot of these companies that have potential. Let's see. Looking at all the auto manufacturer stocks, Tesla's the only one in the green. Does not surprise me. And one of the things that I look at too is sometimes, like we've seen the last couple of weeks, when you see a lot of outperformance by Tesla versus the market, when you see the things turn around, sometimes Tesla does underperform and it's significant when it drops. So, it does end up balancing out sometimes in the end. Just got to pay attention to it. Thanks, Mike. I appreciate that. Let me see. Thank you for being a calming voice in a world of SMRs. I do love Stephen Mark Ryan also. I do love the guy, and I appreciate that. That's actually something that ended up becoming my niche. I didn't even realize it was going to be that. But last year when Elon was selling his stock, I became that, calming voice of reason to keep people calm during times where the stock was just plummeting to nowhereness. So I appreciate that. Thank you. No, so Jerome Powell's not talking. I don't think he's talking again tomorrow. He might be. I actually got to take a look at the schedule, but I do believe there's a lot of Fed members talking this week, so we can have a lot of volatility just with the Fed members coming out, because some are hawkish and some are dovish. So we're gonna have to pay attention to a lot of that. So we could see some volatility this week with all of that. I think Tesla will go over 300 by Friday. Hey, never know. We could possibly get there. Let's see here. Is Ford going to fall back to $10 area since they warned the other week about inflation will hit the company earnings next report? They might. They might, along with just the whole market's been pulling down. Again, the Dow is now in a bear market, so we may end up pulling down that far for Ford. Not totally sure on that one. But yeah, Ford did announce that they've got $1 billion of unexpected supply chain costs that are coming in. That's astronomical. Yeah, earnings. I'm looking at earnings too. Let me see. You guys are coming in hot and fast and furious here. Let me see. Do you think you're coming in plaid mode? What do you think power cars could be? Oh, here we go. Do you think hydrogen-powered cars could be a threat to electric cars, and could this affect Tesla price long term? No. Now, to be honest, I have not done my own personal research on hydrogen itself, but based upon all the research I have seen others do when it comes to Sawyer Merritt and Galley and a bunch of other guys, just looking at the cost efficiency and effectiveness of hydrogen and the infrastructure needed around it, it does not make any sense whatsoever to go hydrogen. If they were going to go with a hydrogen type vehicle, that's going to be decades and decades down the road. And there's a lot of work that needs to get put into hydrogen to make it more cost effective than batteries and EVs. So as of right now, no, absolutely not. Now let's see what else we have here. Thank you, Denise. Let me see. Alejandro, cash is good, just not when we have a high record inflation and small labor market, correct? So strange right now because right now, this is the first time in my life, and I never thought I would see it, that the US dollar is actually stronger than the pound and stronger than the euro. And so while you would think that having cash on hand during high inflationary times is bad, it isn't, it isn't. So when it comes to the stock market, obviously we are seeing a very compressed PE stock market right now. So cash is very valuable when it comes to the stock market and investing there. Eventually, we are most likely going to see the housing market come down as well. So your cash will be a strong place to have your money when it comes to the housing market to then invest in the housing market. So when it comes to your normal daily bills, it is not. So it's a really uncertain time right now. So if you're putting money into the stock market, even if we do dip down further, I think investing money into the market right now with a DCA type method, because historically that is the best way to go, not financial advice, but historically DCAing, dollar cost averaging, is the best way to go. So that's why I'm doing it. That's why I dollar cost average daily and I add more as we come down, but I do have that cash reserve on the side in case we come down further. And and I keep my bills low. So in times like this, just minimize your expenses. That's really it. So then cash would be more valuable to you to be able to invest because your expenses are lower. And that, not financial advice, but from experience, I can tell you that for sure that is definitely going to pay off. Yes, don't panic, buy Tesla. So it's funny you say that. One of the things that I thought of earlier in the year is when I get to times of stress or things like that, I'm like, I like to buy something, it makes me feel good. I like to eat things and I like to buy things. So sometimes I like to spend money on food, whatever. But, I found that spending money on Tesla makes me feel good. So that's why I created my whole stockpile. I used to be one who was all in and I never had cash. So we got a further dip and I was like, so frustrated with myself. And so while, yes, I totally admire all of you who are all in and you go and ride through it, for me, that's just not my personality. So when we get to times where we're dipping like this, I'm like, cool, I can buy more. I can feel good about myself because I am buying more. So I just keep on buying more. So I'm not panicking because I'm buying more. And that's how I look at it personally. And that has definitely worked for me over the course of the year. Let me see. Why so bullish when the news in counties to be hawkish? Powell did speak today. So the reason I'm so bullish is because of an old saying, which is be fearful when others are greedy and greedy when others are fearful. We have always seen swings like this over the course of history. We have always seen dips. We have seen many recessions, and we've even seen a massive depression. And we have come through that every single time. And the people who have come out the most wealthy on the other side are the ones who invested during those times. So for me, when we are looking at a hawkish Fed and everybody is bearish, that is when I want to be bullish. And I know somebody had contradicted it, but we have the old thing where bulls are drawn to red. When it's red, I am drawn to that and I want to buy. But somebody did tell me a while back that that's actually a farce and bulls are not attracted to red. But hey, when I watch the bull fights, they have red capes. So let me see. How many shares do I have right now? Currently, I have 34 and a half shares in my main portfolio and 12 more in my IRA. And I have 3 shares ready to get bought in my IRA as well. So I'm really looking to try and get to 50 in my main portfolio by the end of the year. That is my big goal for me. Let me see. Let's see what else we've got. I do have to jump off in a minute, but I will finish all of your comments. Convert your money to EU and then sell back to the euro, or buy Japanese yen. That was actually something that I think a lot of people ended up doing when the Russian ruble crashed. I think a lot of people ended up buying into that because then the ruble came right back. Now, granted, that to me was a big no-no just because you're basically investing in Russia. To me, that was a no-no. So I wasn't going to play that game. But I have a feeling a lot of people did that. And there's actually something Tesla Boomer Mama I would be interested in asking her. I didn't even think about it when I had her on the channel. Was is that a game that some people play? I have no doubt because she was very much into the currency market. Yeah, World War III will come and get us get us out of the recession and depression. It's sad to say. I don't know, and if it does happen, I think it's going to crash everything further. But you're right. And it's sad to say that there's a lot of times where war. Looking back to World War II, where we had the depression, and the war is technically what brought us out of it. That was the big thing that pushed us out of it. And I think from then on, a lot of times the governments are thinking, all right, well, let's create a war so that we can create a depression and then come out of it, because there's a lot of people who made big money coming out of it. That's a little tinfoil hat theory, but I wouldn't doubt some of that has truth to it. Now, let me see. Uncle T, just my thought, isn't this a great time for anybody to get to almost any stocks right now because it's so cheap? Yes and no. Again, not financial advice because I have to say it, but look at the companies themselves. Look at their financials. There are some really good companies. AMD right now is down at $66 last I checked. That to me is a steal. I would buy the heck out of that one. My dad is. I actually, if I get a little bit freed up cash, I might buy a little bit more of that. I still want to be mostly in Tesla, but there are some amazing buys out there right now. So just make sure you do your research on the companies. Make sure they're, recession proof, because I don't know if we're going to get into a deeper recession. But if we do, just make sure you protect yourself on those. But yeah, there's definitely a lot of great buys out there right now. End of the year prediction, as of right now, my end of the year prediction still holds at $453. And I'm doing that until probably October, once I see Q3 earnings come out, once I kind of see the CPI data coming out for October, see if we continue to trend in the right direction. Might make some tweaks at that point. But my last 2 weeks, because every single week I update it and I share it with everybody over on, as a member. If you're an Oracle 2 member, I share all my production and delivery numbers and all of my price targets at Oracle 1 level. But I go through all of those and I update. In the last 2 weeks, I haven't done much tweaking just because we're getting so close to production and delivery time. I'll wait till this weekend. Once we get those numbers out, I will then update all of my price targets significantly for the end of the year. And then when earnings come out again, I'll do another major update on all of them also. So as of right now, I'm still holding with my 453 for the end of the year. Let me see. Ian, would you one day do a video on the Tesla company? So many people don't appreciate it so much more for the electric cars. Yeah, I will definitely do something like that, because I know I dive mostly into the stocks and just regular normal news. But yeah, you know what? One of these days I will get into the company itself and everything that's involved in it. That's big. And one of the things I am going to be diving further into as well, as I get more time on the weekends, is the energy side of the business. That is huge. That is something that is going to be the next massive S curve. I think FOC and robotaxis will kind of go up with it, but I think energy is going to end up being bigger than those two. And so I really want to get into energy. I've been doing some research on the power walls and the mega packs and how many they've been producing on those. We don't get a lot of information on them. So I'm trying to get as much information as I can, because as that really starts to boost up, having some sort of historical trail to go by will be good to see, so we can track on the growth progress of those as well. Let me see. All right. That seems like it is about it for the evening. I thank you all so much for being on. This was awesome. And I love doing this. I'm going to try to do at least one of these a week for you guys to kind of jump into the charts and have these chats, because these are one of my favorite evenings, is being able to have a discussion with you guys on here. So I appreciate this. This was awesome tonight, guys. I appreciate all of your support and feedback on everything. And I thank you all to the new members who have joined on the live stream tonight as well. And again, if you guys want to join as a member, I do go into the charts, and I'm going to start making videos. I'm breaking down how I come up with all of my different lines and all of my different levels for all the charts and everything as well. So otherwise, I will see you guys in the morning most likely, and we'll check you out later. Thank you so much.